Evelyn to Philip, V-mail dated January 1st, 1945. Darling sweetheart, here it is, the first day of 1945, and it's hard to believe that you will be away much longer than we supposed. I didn't get the opportunity to write yesterday as I went to see Eddie. He certainly does look fine and looks much heavier to me than I ever remember seeing him. He told me many things I hadn't learned from the folks, all of which were most interesting. He definitely does not advise a furlough for you, since he fears that you will lose your present good position and says it is wisest for you to stick it out. As much as I am dying to see you under the circumstances, I feel it would be best not to accept anything but the way we wish it to be. I'm sure you'll be the best judge of that when and if the occasion arrives for such a choice. There are moments when I feel I shall simply put myself and Adele on a plane and fly to you. If only we could. I want so for you to see her now, for she is such a sweet, adorable young lady that I know you'd simply eat her up. At the present moment, she is engaged with the following: pencil and paper, and is writing a letter to Daddy dear. I hope I'll remember to send some of her scribblings along to you to see for yourself when I next send an airmail letter. I spent New Year's Eve in the following manner. Sylvia, Mom, and I played knock rummy until 2 this morning. I had such a terrible case of the blues that I almost felt myself becoming desperate for want of the sight of you. I guess you're wondering how I got out to see Eddie. Well, Ruth and Ed's girl Ruth went early in the morning and killed a few hours in Phoenixville before they could see him. Brother Jack and I caught the 1:37 train and got up to Ed's room about 2:35. Ed is in the suicide ward and all the doors are locked. Jack and I had to knock and knock before we got in, and when the ward boy finally opened the door, I said, "Look, buddy, I waited 15 months to see my brother, and if you don't mind, I'd like to see him." They creep around that hospital until it gets on your nerves. I swear you could go nuts in such a place. The 4 of us left the hospital at 4:30 promptly. They are terribly strict now, as one fellow slit his throat last week. And Ed watched us, rather wistfully, leave. We made good time getting back. It rained, but I mean rained, both yesterday and today, and the only good it did was to wash the snow away. When I got back, I learned that Sonia, Jack N's aunt, was here in Philly and had called. I called, but she had gone out. So I called today. She gave me Jack's phone number, and I just finished calling him long distance. He says he feels fine, but they do not know the results of the operation as yet. He expects to be in the hospital for about 9 more days and expects to be in New York until the end of January. I'm definitely going to New York the weekend of January 13th. And haven't decided as yet whether I'll stay 2 or 3 days, but most likely it will be 3. By that time, Jack expects to be out of the hospital and will be at Sonia's. Sonia extended an invitation for me to stay with her while in New York if I care to. Jack has to report back to the hospital in Oklahoma for a final examination, and after that, he'll either go back to duty or possibly be discharged. He was so glad to hear from me. He promised to drop me a line, and I'll send his letter along when it arrives. Guess I'll have to start the new year off with an old phrase, that of, "I adore you, my beloved, your Ev."